My name is Patrick Hernandez and I'm Propeller's Director of Capital Access. Today we're going to be learning about budgeting and projections for early learning entrepreneurs. So what exactly are we going to be learning today? First, we're going to go into the difference between a budget and a pro forma. In order to do that, we'll look at our revenue and our expenses, as well as ultimately go back and see how all of this fits in together. So budgets outline the expected income and expenses over a specific period of time, versus pro formas are used to project or forecast the future financial performance based on certain assumptions, hypothetical conditions like those created in the budget. Together, budgets and pro forma projections allow us to anticipate future revenues and expenses based on future assumptions. By understanding the drivers of each, we can make different business decisions. These are simply tools, they're not definites. The first step of your pro forma is to look at revenue so that we can understand the top line of the equation. After we finish our revenues, we're going to move down into the expenses. One thing to remember is that not all expenses are the same. Some are fixed while some are variable, meaning the numbers might change depending on what other assumptions, like number of students, you have in your model. Budgets help to predict expenses as best as possible based on the information available. Finally, we have our pro forma, where we can use everything we've created in our budget to predict the future. This model takes the budget you created and allows you to extend those projected revenue and expenses into the future. A few things to note in the model. You must double check that the months align when you want to project your starting point. If you are a new center and expect to begin incurring some expenses before others, make sure that you adjust accordingly. Focus on adjusting numbers only in blue, not those in black. Revenue and expenses do not include any year-over-year increases in this model. Now we're going to look at our full budget and pro forma template. At the top, we're going to see our revenues. In the yellow column, you will enter the per seat average monthly tuition for each type of seat. Seats that we use include private pay tuition, CCAP tuition, early Head Start tuition, city seats, and others. If any of these do not apply to you, this is the tab where you can change the name of that seat, and it will ultimately flow through to your pro forma model. One thing to note is that there are multiple types of private pay tuition, including full, moderate, and low. This will allow you to estimate a sliding scale of private pay if you choose. Below the seat types, you'll see a few other revenues. The first is the food program. The food program is something that we'll come back to in a minute. The last two on your screen are fundraiser and others, which are two buckets of revenue that you may or may not have, but you can use them as catch-alls for anything else not captured by seats or food program. After the revenues, we're going to start breaking down our expenses by category. The first is personnel, which, like food program, we'll come back to because it's calculated based on a different formula, which we'll explain. Some personnel expenses you do need to enter in this section include director salary and cook, as well as any others that you choose to add below cook. If you add any, they will automatically populate into your pro forma model. Just be sure to add the expense that corresponds to the category. As we continue down into occupancy, you'll see a number of other types of expenses that you may or may not incur. Like every category of expenses, this is somewhere where you can add only those that are relevant to you. Feel free to change any of these, and remember that any number in blue is a number for you to change. As we look at other categories, including supplies, equipment, travel, IT and communications, miscellaneous and professional fees, these are all categories which you need to ensure match your own budget. After we've done all of our initial revenue and expense categories, We'll circle back first to wages and then to food program. For wages, you'll see a section called salary calculations. Similar to other sections, any cell in this worksheet that's highlighted in yellow and has a blue number in it is one that you can change if you choose. The numbers that are included in this sample are based on real situations in the city of New Orleans. The city of New Orleans requires any city seats to pay a minimum of $15.55 per hour, which is where this calculation comes from. Fringe and health benefits are based on industry standards. Below those inputs, you'll see a table full of calculations. You can reference these, but don't change anything. These will flow into a later part of your pro forma, where the number of seats you choose to project will automatically calculate how many teachers you need to serve that many students. The second tab, Food Program, has a number of inputs that you can change as you wish. All of these numbers in blue are based on a real-life center in Orleans Parish. If you have different data that better supports your center, feel free to change them. And finally, the Pro Forma tab that we've all been waiting for. The third tab, P&L Forecast, is where you get to see all of your numbers come together. Starting in column C, you'll see several numbers where you can input seats per seat type. Each row corresponds to the number of seats you have in that given month with that given type of seat. For example, in the model, this center starts with only one seat in May of 2025. That number is going to grow over time as they start to fill their seats. If you have an existing center, this might start at a higher number, or that might be the case if you have a waitlist going into the opening of your center. One thing to be careful of is that the total seats line should never exceed your seat capacity. Once you enter the number of seats per month, you're basically done. Now you can scroll down and see how all of your work comes together. As you'll see, the total tuition is going to automatically calculate based on the type of seat that is filled and the number of students in that type. From there, you can see the same is true for food program reimbursements, as well as your expenses, which will be driven by the same numbers. One thing to pay attention to in this model is the very, very bottom line, your net income. Net income ideally is going to be a positive number. When you're starting out, it may not be, but as you grow over time, you should see this number begin to increase, and that will ultimately tell you whether your inputs are sustainable or not. All the way to the right, you will see summaries of years 1, 2, and 3. Remember, your expenses are not increasing year over year in this model, but neither are your revenues. If you do see increases in expenses, you can raise your revenue by increasing the cost per seat over time. This model is purely for illustrative purposes. This model will hopefully help you to project the number and type of seats that you have, as well as your expenses as you continue to build out your center.